What is up, YouTube? This is your host, Ranee B, here to spill that homicidal tea. Today's blend of tea is another one that I found way in the back of the cabinet. I had to dust off this 40-year-old blend to reveal a curious, somewhat confusing start and a nice, warm, justified finish. As I say every single time, because the YouTube algorithm loves to hear me say it, so I will say it. Please like and subscribe, and please share on social media. Did that go the way you wanted, algorithm?
No.
All right, whatever. This one is another cold case gone wild. It's the 40-year-old solved homicide case of Robin Brooks. On April 24th, 1980, Robin Brooks had not arrived for her shift at the donut shop that she worked at in Sacramento, California. Robin Brooks was a 20-year-old native New Yorker that had relocated to the West Coast and worked at a donut shop as a second job for extra money to be able to afford her much newer and nicer apartment that she had in Sacramento. She was seen the night before completing her late shift at the donut shop around midnight. She made sure to poke her head around the corner before she left to say goodnight to her coworker, and then she supposedly went straight home. Her apartment was just around the corner from the store. The following day, Robin didn't show up for her 4 p.m. shift, which her coworkers thought was really out of character. She wasn't a flaky type at all. She always showed up on time, if not a little early. Well, a friend volunteered to pop over to the apartment just to see if anything was wrong, and they repeatedly banged on the door without getting a response. She went back to the shop and then found another coworker that was willing to gain forceful access to the apartment because the first coworker had a really bad feeling and wanted to get in there to make sure that everything was okay. She thought that it was totally worth risking breaking in and just, because they cared about her and they wanted to make sure that she was okay, like I said. Well, anyway, when they returned to the flat and finally gained entry, they found Robin in her bedroom. She had been stabbed several times, and the killer even slicing through her and puncturing the waterbed, making it for an even more horrific scene. The evidence of the indecent assault that they thought that they saw physically was later verified by detectives once they arrived. So what did homicide detectives have to work with? She was new in town, so there were no ties to her that could really lead detectives to interview suspects. She didn't have a boyfriend, no domestic disturbances in her background to follow up on. The worst case for a homicide detective that they could take on is a random killer, and as they have the hardest breadcrumbs to follow because they just aren't linked to anyone, and hopefully they could link someone to this. A coworker who had seen Robin the night before had briefly recalled that Robin had told her the prior evening that she was bummed out that she did not have time to make her bed after washing her sheets earlier that day, and that she'd have to do all of that so late after her shift just to go to bed. This small bit of information was really important because the fact that Robin's bed wasn't made at the crime scene led police to conclude that she was likely killed immediately after she got home. After talking to Robin's sister, officers, they realized that friends of Robin, they were concerned that she may have even had a stalker. Robin mentioned to acquaintances and friends that a customer at the donut shop really made her feel uncomfortable and was really forceful in talking to her and getting her attention, all the time in the days before her murder. She never said who the man was, and she never really even described him, so police didn't even have a whole lot to go on. This is before video cameras were everywhere, but at least it was some sort of direction to go. The police, they collected the evidence at the scene and they sent it off to the 1980s era labs to get the blood type, secretor information, all that. Not advanced DNA yet, but DNA nonetheless. During this period of forensic science, the type of DNA that they could work with was, the information was RFLP DNA testing. And that's when scientists use regions of the DNA that were highly variable. In science speak, it's polymorphic. And it's more discriminating than the previous used HLA or human leukocyte antigen complex that they were used for distinguishing like differences in families and groups of people. Well, this newer testing that was available, it was this RFLP kind, and it's called restricted fragment length polymorphism, just like we said, polymorphism earlier. Well, they use this restrictive enzymes to break up the DNA, and then they drag it through a gel sheet using electrophoresis, which is a fancy term for hooking a positive node at the end of one of these gelatinous sheets and allowing the current to draw the segmented DNA through the sheet, breaking it off at different areas as the DNA makeup is extracted. Well, the separated gel sheet is then stained with ethidium bromide and looks like this. Oddly familiar, huh? Well, the only reason I go into such detail as this is that this was the dawn of modern DNA testing. These techniques are the beginning of the beauty that we have today in forensic science and the ability to nail these perps so much more efficiently. I love this science crap. Nerd! Okay, well, that was rude. Anyway, back to the case. The detectives got some promising news from the lab. The blood sample yielded DNA evidence that did not belong to the victim. And it appeared that the attacker had cut himself during the assault, which is common as they slip on the knife as it gets bloodier and bloodier. Side note, dude, finger and hand cuts fucking hurt. And I am so glad that this fucker had at least 2 weeks of like lemon juice stinging the shit out of him and Band-Aids getting in the way of stuff and falling off. I mean, it excites me to no end that this person, at least for a little bit, sometime had a nuisance like this. Anyway, well, there were fingerprints that were on the windowsill that showed where the murderer had entered and exited the flat. Good stuff, right? Well, sort of. There was no CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System, until 1994. That was only available for FBI, pretty much for identifying missing persons. There was also no AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Information System. AFIS didn't become widely available until 1986. So the evidence they had, what could they do with? I mean, not much. And even these detectives really tried their hardest. This case went closed. This case went.
What the fuck are you talking about?
This case went cold, and they closed it. Fast forward to 2004. Finally, the genome was broken up and deciphered. A few years back, DNA forensics were in full swing, and the first real database for DNA evidence and comparison was created and available for law enforcement agencies all over the country. Cold case detectives, they never forgot about Robin, so they submitted this foreign DNA from her crime scene, but it didn't match anything in the state or even federal databases. However, what it did was establish a connection to a second victim who had been attacked only 3 weeks prior to Robin's murder. But still, no name. I researched this case like I do all of these with the OCD of Jack Nicholson's character from As Good as It Gets. And I found an article that the retired detective Mickey Lynx that was in charge of this case said to the media, and this was in 2017. She said, "We have the DNA. We have the person who did this. There's no doubt about who it is. We just need their name." Now, Mickey Lynx also shared some new information that she received from an informant that changed the timeline of these details in this case. Remember, for decades, investigators thought that Brooks ended her shift at the donut shop at around midnight, said goodbye, griped about her sheets, and went straight home. But the informant, who was cleared as a suspect, not at all related to this case, came forward and told them they had seen Brooks at a party that night, changing the timeline of the murder. Now, Mickey Lynx finished by telling this story to the media and said, again in 2017, "You're not going to get away with this. I'm going to do whatever I can to find you and make you pay for what you did." And the article was featured in Fox 40 and at Sacramento ended with an appeal to the public with a $10,000 personal reward from Maria Eric, Robin's sister, for information in finding the killer. Keep your money, Maria. Mickey kept her promise. Oh my God. Hold it together. Don't cry. I love these detectives so much. Oh my gosh. In 2020, funding for submitting this DNA was approved to submit it for financing for genetic genealogy research after 40 years. They got a match. Hold it together. Oh my gosh. In April of 2020, 73-year-old Philip Wilson was arrested. At the time of the murder, he would have been around 30 years old. Police also learned that he frequented the donut shop and resided close to Robin's apartment complex. After Robin was killed, he had no run-ins with the authorities at all and wasn't even ever on their radar. The trial was a joke. The defense attorneys, I hate them. The defense portrayed him as a super great guy who just blamed this on junk science. Yeah, whatever. He had no regard for the victim or her family. I mean, he could have just owned it. You know, I mean, it doesn't bring her back, but it does help the family somewhat to know that the person that did this is somewhat sorry. His attorney maintained that the blood evidence came from a job injury, that Philip and Robin were in a consensual sexual relationship.
Dirty motherfucker.
That made me nauseated just hearing that. These attorneys, anyway.
Daddy, chill.
The jury was initially evenly divided over the conviction, but on March 9th, they returned with a unanimous guilty verdict. Boom! Wilson received a life sentence without parole, and that was in April of 2022, y'all. That was just not too long ago. Isn't that cool? Anyway, it's also important to note that Wilson could not be charged in the other indecent assault case where his DNA was also present because the statute of limitations had already run out.
Unbelievable.
Something needs to change there. I mean, I don't think that indecent assault should have any statute of limitations, especially since the main form of evidence is a complete biological link to the person and their DNA. That is so stupid, and politicians and lawmakers do better.
You're ripping my lips. You're ruining it.
Anyway, y'all want to see something freaky? Ooh, okay, this is a snapshot. And you guys, I've talked about Parabon before. I love CeCe Moore and Parabon. I know there's more of the people that work at Parabon than CeCe Moore, but she's just the face of Parabon in my head. This is a snapshot created by the Genetic Genealogy Profile in 2017 by Parabon Labs. They had the original snapshot from the DNA markers at a young age of the perp. Then a little older than the actual killer. Look, isn't that crazy? Ah! And yeah, science is awesome and cool as shit, but the fact that genetic genealogy is really expensive and controversial for some people, stupid people. So a lot of public funding is hard for these police agencies to get, and sometimes they need like $10,000-$20,000 to cover the cost of researching these relationships. So that's why I stress so much to like and share to get these videos monetized. I have said, and always will say, I have a very good paying job. The money from any of these videos will always go straight to an escrow account that can grow to support victim services like DNA testing, search efforts, scholarships. I probably will have to establish like a 501c3 or something like that, so I can go public with the donations and uses of the funds and stuff, just to be transparent. I don't really understand people who get rich off of these cases, and YouTubers that, I mean, no, ooh, that is not your money, boo. That's my dog's nails. I'm so sorry. She's friendly. She's actually not. She's a beast, but I love her. Anyway, if you hear that tapping, that's my dog. But back to these YouTubers that just seem to cash in. I mean, like, who do you think is supplying your content? I mean, don't their families or the other victims that need it deserve to get that money? Anyway, I want to help so much than I do now, but it's just hard. I can't wait until we can do that, and I can actually like post update videos to show where the money has gone and what it has done and all that kind of stuff. That just that is such a dream of mine. Anyway,
have you ever had a dream that you
enough about me. That is it for this case. I have never heard of this one either. Again, I don't know how this one found me. Maybe Robin just crawled into my brain at night and said, "Hey, what's up, girl?" I love the forensics involved in this, and I love the fact that this vile creature is in prison forever, and I hope that his dreams are haunted by the same evil that he has in his soul. Now, I almost said that I hope that Robin visited him, but, you know, I just don't get that feeling in my spirit that was her style. I mean, she's more likely to be present at animal adoptions and infant wards of hospitals, like cradling like little afraid kittens and babies as she can get them to go to sleep. Completely opposite of me, because I would be in the shadows with some sort of pointy and painful object pricking these perps' feet as they sleep after I die. I mean, maybe I should reevaluate my choices.
No, I don't think I will.
Anyone who knows me and hears me say that thinks, will she ever change?
No.
Yeah, you're right. You guys be good. And we will see you very soon in the next video. Bye.